双语音标领航，注音阅读启蒙，叶兴阳有声读物。
Garrison's Finish, A Romance of the Racecourse, by W.B.M. Ferguson. Chapter 1. A Shattered Idol. As he made his way out of the paddock, Garrison carefully tilted his bag of Durham into the curved rice paper held between nicotine-stained finger and thumb, then deftly rolled his smoke with the thumb and forefinger, while tying the bag with practiced right hand and even white teeth. Once his reputation had been as spotless as those teeth. He smiled cynically as he shouldered his way through the slowly moving crowd, that kaleidoscope of the humanities which congregate but do not blend, which coagulate wherever the trial of science, speed, and stamina serves as an excuse for putting fortune to the test. It was a cynical crowd, a quiet crowd, a sullen crowd. Those who had won, through sheer luck, bottled their joy until they could give it vent in a safer atmosphere, one not so resentful. For it had been a hard day for the field. The favorite beaten in the stretch, choked off, outside the money. Garrison gasped as the rushing simulacra of the Carter handicap surged to his beating brain. That brain at bursting pressure. It had recorded so many things, recorded faithfully so many things he would give anything to forget. He was choking, smothering with shame, hopelessness, despair. He must get away to breathe, to think, get away out of it all, get away anywhere, oblivion. To the jibes, the sneers flung at him, the innuendos, the open insults, and worst of all, the sad looks of those few friends who gave their friendship without conditions. He was not indifferent, though he seemed so. God knows how he felt it at all, and all the more so because he had once been so high. Now his fall was so low, so pitifully low, so contemptible, so complete. He knew what the action of the Jockey Club would be. The stewards would do only one thing. His license would be revoked. Today had seen his finish. This, the $10,000 Carter handicap, had seen his final slump to the bottom of the scale. Worse, it had seen him a pauper, ostracized, an unclean thing in the mouth of friend and foe alike. The sporting world was through with him at last. And when the sporting world is through, again Garrison laughed harshly, puffing at his cigarette, dragging its fumes into his lungs in a fierce desire to finish his physical cataclysm with his moral. Yes, it had been his last chance. He, the popular idol, had been going lower and lower in the scale, but the sporting world had been loyal, as it always is, to class. He had been class, and they had stuck to him. Then when he began to go back, no, worse, not that. They said he had gone crooked. That was it. Crooked as Doyer Street, they said. Throwing every race, standing in with his owner to trim the bookies. And they couldn't stand for that. Sport was sport, but they had been loyal. They had warned, implored, begged. What was the use soaking a pile by dirty work? Why not ride straight ride as he could, as he did, as it had been bred in him to? Any money, any honor was his. Instead, Garrison, stung to madness by retrospect, humped his way through the crowd at the gates of the aqueduct. There was not a friendly eye in that crowd. He stuffed his ears with indifference. He would not bear their remarks as they recognized him. He summoned all his nerve to look them in the face unflinchingly, that nerve that had been frayed to ribbons. And then he heard quick footsteps behind him. A hand was laid heavily on his shoulder, and he was twisted about like a chip. It was his stable owner, his face flushed with passion and drink. Waterbury was stingy of cash, but not of words. "I've looked for you," he whipped out venomously, his large hands ravenous for something to rend. "Now I've caught you. Who was in with you on that dirty deal? Answer. You cur. Spit it out before the crowd." "Was it me? Was it me?" he reiterated in a frenzy, taking a step forward for each word, his bad grammar coming equally to the fore. The crowd surged back. Owner and jockey were face to face. When thieves fall out, they thought, and they waited for the fun. Something was due them. It came in a flash. Waterbury shot out his big fist, and little Garrison thumped on the turf with a bang, a thin streamer of blood threading its way down his gray-white face. "You miserable little whelp," howled his owner. "You've dishonored me. You threw that race. Damn you. That's what I get for giving you a chance when you couldn't get a mount anywhere." His long pent-up venom was unleashed. "You threw it. You've tried to make me party to your dirty work, me. He thumped his heaving chest. "But you can't heap your filth on me. I'm done with you. You're a thief. A cur." "Hold on," cut in Garrison. He had risen slowly and was dabbing furtively at his nose with a silk red and blue handkerchief the Waterbury colors. "Just a minute," he added, striving to keep his voice from sliding the scale. He was horribly calm, but his gray eyes were quivering, as was his lip. "I didn't throw it. I didn't throw it. I was sick. I've been sick. Then," for he was only a boy with a man's burdens. His lip began to quiver pitifully. His voice shrilled out, and his words came tumbling forth like lava, striving to make up by passion and reiteration what they lacked in logic and coherency. "I'm not a thief. I'm not. I'm honest. I don't know how it happened. Everything became a blur in the stretch. You've called me a liar. Mr. Waterbury. You've called me a thief. You struck me. I know you can lick me," he shrilled. "I'm dishonored down and out. I know you can lick me. But, by the Lord, you'll do it here and now. You'll fight me. I don't like you. I never liked you. I don't like your face. I don't like your hat. And here's your damn colors in your face." He fiercely crumpled the silk handkerchief and pushed it swiftly into Waterbury's glowering eye. Instantly, there was a mix-up. The crowd was blood-hungry. They had paid for sport of some kind. There would be no crooked work in this deal. Lustfully they watched. Then the inequality of the boy and the man was at length borne in on them, and it roused their stagnant sense of fair play. Garrison, a small hell let loose, had risen from the turf for the third time. His face was a smear of blood, venom, and all the bandit passions. Waterbury, the gentleman in him soaked by the taint of a foisted dishonor and his fighting blood roused, waited with clenched fists. As Garrison hopped in for the fourth time, the older man fainted quickly, and then swung right and left savagely. The blows were caught on the thick arm of a tan box coat. A big hand was placed over Waterbury's face, and he was given a shove backward. He staggered for a ridiculously long time, and then, after an unnecessary waste of minutes, sat down. The tan overcoat stood over him. It was Jimmy Drake, and the chameleon-like crowd applauded. Jimmy was a popular bookmaker with educated fists. The crowd surged closer. It looked as if the fight might change from bantam heavy to heavy, and the odds were on Drake. "If ye want to fight, kids," said the bookmaker, in his slow, drawling voice, "wait till they're grown up. Meb then ye'll change your mind." Waterbury was on his feet now. He let loose some vitriolic verbiage. Using Drake as the objective point, he told him to mind his own business, or that he would make it hot for him. He told him that Garrison was a thief and cur, and that he would have no bookmaker and tout. "Hold on," said Drake. "You're getting too flossy right there. When you call me a tout, you're exceeding the speed limit." He had an uncomfortable steady blue eye and a face like a snow shovel. "I stepped in here not to argue morals, but to see fair play. If Billy Garrison's done dirt, and I admit it looks close, like it, I'll bet that your stable, either trainer or owner, shared the mud pie. All right. I've stood enough of those slurs," cried Waterbury, in a frenzy. "You lie." Instantly Drake's large face stiffened like cement, and his overcoat was on the ground. "That's a fighting word where I come from," he said grimly. But before Drake could square the insult, a crowd of Waterbury's friends swirled up in an auto, and half a dozen peacemakers, mutual acquaintances, together with two somnambulistic policemen, managed to preserve the remains of the badly shattered piece. Drake sullenly resumed his coat, and Waterbury was driven off, leaving a backdraft of impolite adjectives and vague threats against everybody. The crowd drifted away. It was a fitting finish for the Scotched Carter handicap.
Meanwhile,
Garrison, taking advantage of the switching of the limelight from himself to Drake, had dodged to oblivion in the crowd. I guess I don't forget Jimmy Drake, he mused grimly to himself. He's straight cotton. The only one who didn't give me the double cross out and out. Bud, he declared to himself. This is sure the wind-up. You've struck bedrock and the tide's coming in hard. You're all to the weeds. Buck up, he growled savagely, in fierce contempt. What are you dripping about? He had caught a tear burning its way to his eyes that had never blinked under Waterbury's savage blows. What if you are ruled off? What if you are called a liar and crook, thrown the game to soak a pile? What if you couldn't get a clothes horse to run in a potato race? Buck up, and plug your cotton pipe. They say you're a crook.
well, be one.
Show 'em you don't care a damn. You're down and out.
Anyway,
What's honesty? Anyway, but whether you got the goods or ain't, shake the bunch. Get out before you're kicked out. Open a pool room like all the has-beens and trim the suckers right, left, and down the middle. Money's the whole thing.
get it.
Don't mind how you do, but just get it. You'll be honest enough for 10 men then. Anyway, there's no one cares a curse how you pan out. He stopped, and his face slowly relaxed. The hard, vindictive look slowly faded from his narrowed eyes. Sis, he said softly. Sis, I was going without saying goodbye. Forgive me. He swung on his heel, and, with hunched shoulders, made his way back to Aqueduct. Waterbury's training quarters were adjacent, and, after lurking furtively about like some hunted animal, Garrison summoned all his nerve and walked boldly in. The only stable boy about was one with a twisted mouth and flaming red hair, which he was always curling. A remarkably thin youth he was, addicted to green sweaters and sentimental songs. He was singing one now in a key entirely original with himself. Red's characteristic was that when happy, he wore a face like a tombstone. When sad, the sentimental songs were always in evidence. Hello,
Red,
said Garrison gruffly. He had been Red's idol once. He was quite prepared now, however, to see the other side of the curtain. He was no longer an idol to anyone. Hello, returned Red noncommittally. Where's Crimmins? In there. Red nodded to the left, where were situated the stalls. Gettin' Sis ready for the Belmont opening. Riding for him now.
yeah,
Promised a mount into next runoff. 'Bout time, I guess. There was silence. Garrison pictured to himself the time when he had won his first mount. How long ago that was. Time is reckoned by events, not years. How glorious the future had seemed. He slowly seated himself on a box by the side of Red and laid a hand on the other's thin leg.
kid,
He said, and his voice quivered. You know I wish you luck. It's a great game, the greatest game in the world, if you play it right. He blundered to silence as his own conditions surged over him. Red was knocking out his shabby heels against the box in an agony of confusion. Then he grew emboldened by the other's dejected mien.
no,
I never throw no race, he said judicially. It don't pay. Red, broke in Garrison harshly. You don't believe I threw that race? Honest. I'm square.
why?
I was up on Sis whom I love. Red. Honest. I was sure of the race. Dead sure. I hadn't much money, but I played every cent I had on her. I lost more than anyone. I lost everything.
See,
He ran on feverishly, glad of the opportunity to vindicate himself, if only to a stable boy. I guess the stewards will let the race stand, even if Waterbury does kick. Rogue one square enough. Yeah, because yet choked Sis off in teeth stretch. She could ha' slept home a winner. And ye know it, Billy, said Red, with sullen regret. There was a time when he never would have dared to call Garrison by his Christian name. Disgrace is a great leveler. Red grew more conscious of his own rectitude. I ain't knockin' ya, Billy, he continued, speaking slowly, to lengthen the pleasure of thus monopolizing the pulpit. What have I to say? Ye can ride rings round any jockey in the States at least. Ye could. And then, like his kind, Red having nothing to say,
proceeded to say it.
But it weren't your first throne race.
Billy.
Ye know that. I know how ye doped it out. I know we ain't got much time to make a pile, if we keep it to game. Makin' weight makes ye a lunger. We all die of hurry up stunt. And yeri all write your owners so longs. Ye make good. After that it's 23:46. Double time for yours. I know a game is when you've hit top of the pile. It's a fast mob, and ye got to keep up with bandwagon. You're makin' money fast and spendin' it faster. Ye think it'll never stop comin' your way. Ye dip into everything. Then ye wake up some day without your pants. And ye breeze about to make coin again. There's a lot of wise eggs handin' out crooked advice. They take the coin, and you do big stick. Ye know, neither Crimmins or the old man was in on your deals. But ye had it all framed up with outside guys. Ye bled the field to soak a pile.
See, Bill.
He finished eloquently. It weren't your first race. I know, said Garrison grimly. Cut it out. You don't understand. And it's no good talking. When you have reached the top of the pile, Red, you'll travel with as fast a mob as I did. But I never threw a race in my life. That's on the level. Somehow I always get blind dizzy in the stretch. And it passed when I crossed the post. I never knew when it was coming on. I felt all right other times. I had to make the coin,
as you say.
For I lived up to every cent I made.
No.
I never threw a race.
Yes.
You can smile, Red. He finished savagely. Smile if your face wants stretching. But that's straight. Maybe I've gone back. Maybe I'm all in. Maybe I'm a crook. But there'll come a time. It may be 1 year. It may be 100. When I'll come back. Clean. I'll make good. And, if you're on the track, Red, I'll show you that Garrison can ride a harder, straighter race than you, or anyone. This isn't my finish. There's a new deal coming to me. And I'm going to see that I get it. Without heeding Red's pessimistic reply, Garrison turned on his heel and entered the stall where Sis, the Carter handicap favorite, was being boxed for the coming Belmont opening. Crimmins, the trainer, looked up sharply as Garrison entered. He was a small, hard man, with a face like an ice pick and eyes devoid of pupils, which fact gave him a stony, blank expression. In fact, he had been likened once